Oh, the F-16s?
Yeah.
Okay, so they've been needing the F-16 for over a year. The Biden administration finally gave in because our allies in the Congress were going to kick the heck out of them. When it comes to Ukraine, Biden's been playing follow the leader. We had to make him do tanks, long-range artillery. They want to make sure Ukraine doesn't lose, but they are not into winning, the Biden administration. I'm into winning. The jets are coming. They should have come last year. You need a modern Air Force in Ukraine over time. We've wasted an entire year. The Ukrainian pilots, according to the Air Force, are able to master the F-16 in 4 months, not 12. They're highly motivated. This will be a game changer on the battlefield. And when it comes to the Biden administration, it's like pulling teeth to get them to be all in for winning in Ukraine.
Wow.
So, Senator, let me come back to what's going on now on Capitol Hill. Apparently, talks of the debt ceiling increase have hit an impasse between the White House and Speaker McCarthy's office. At the same time, your colleague in the Senate, Bernie Sanders, is saying that, well, the president should use the 14th Amendment to raise the debt ceiling if he can't get anywhere with McCarthy. Here's what the 14th Amendment says, quote, "The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned," which would seem to kind of, in an obscure way, give the president some sort of authority. But even Janet Yellen says it would be legally questionable to pull that trigger. What do you say about this drive by Sanders and others?
Well, we've never done it before. And why do they want to do it? Why do they want to give Biden this power, which I think is very sketchy at best, so they don't have to negotiate with Republicans to control the debt? They don't want people on welfare to work. If you're able-bodied, I want you to work. They want the unspent money on COVID to be spent on something else. I want to turn it back into the taxpayer. They don't want permitting reform. At the end of the day, they're trying to avoid having to deal with Kevin McCarthy by using a constitutional mechanism that's very dubious. The problem is that Kevin McCarthy is not going to give in. The Senate Republicans are not going to pass a debt ceiling increase without some reforms. 7 of the last 10 times we raised the debt ceiling, we had measures attached to it. We're not going to give on this. Here's what will happen to Wall Street. Calm down. We will raise the debt ceiling, but we're also going to address permitting reform. We're going to try to have work requirements to make sure that people are working when they're receiving public assistance where they can. And we're going to do some other things to save money. That is non-negotiable, and the public is with us.
I'll ask you a follow-up on that in just a second. These are the Dem senators that are pushing for Biden to use the 14th. We can put them up on the screen for folks. And this is some of those. These are some of those Democrats, in their own words, pushing for it. Listen.
Using the 14th Amendment would allow the United States to continue to pay its bills on time.
The president should exercise his authority under the 14th Amendment.
The president has a mechanism to push back. He has the 14th Amendment.
This is the whole reason why the 14th Amendment exists. We need to be prepared to be using it. Again, remember, say that again. We must.
Right, so there's obviously a clear push happening there.
Yeah, a bunch of liberals don't want to shrink the government. They don't want to make people work who can. They don't want permitting reform so we can have more energy independence. If you left it up to these people, there would be no end to spending. They would crush the fossil fuel industry, and we're not going to let that happen. They never suggested that Trump could use the 14th Amendment to raise the debt ceiling. Pelosi and Schumer required Bush and others at times to do some things liberals wanted to raise the debt ceiling. So 7 of the last 10 times we've raised the debt ceiling with the reforms. Kevin McCarthy's done a hell of a job raising the debt ceiling with a package that would actually lead us to begin to get us out of debt. The Senate Republicans are not going to give votes to Democrats. We will raise the debt ceiling, but we're going to save some money. We're going to have permitting reform, and we're going to put people to work who can back to work.
Clock's ticking. When does this happen?
It will happen before the markets get disrupted. I'm not so sure about June 1st, but if we need a short delay, we'll get a short delay. I'm here to tell you, we're not going to fall on our debt, but we're not going to let Bernie Sanders and these other people raise the debt ceiling without addressing the problems America has. We have $30 trillion plus of debt. Now's the time to do something about it. We're not going to let the liberal Democrats abuse the Constitution. It hasn't happened before, and it's not going to happen now.
Senator, another big issue people are beginning to talk about increasingly is the health of some of your colleagues in the Senate, particularly after the return of Dianne Feinstein. Congresswoman Katie Porter, who's vying for Feinstein's seat, says that there should be some sort of invalidity process where if a member of Congress is deemed to be, an invalid, that person can be removed or at least temporarily replaced. They're also talking about John Fetterman because more questions are being raised about his health after his office appeared to release some doctored transcripts of things that he said. For example, his office said in questioning a Silicon Valley Bank executive named Greg Becker, the quote read, Fetterman said, "Shouldn't you have a working requirement after we bail out your bank? Republicans seem to be more preoccupied with SNAP requirements for hungry people than protecting taxpayers that have to bail out these banks." Here's what Fetterman actually said. "Shouldn't you have a working requirement after we sale your bank, billions of your bank, because you seem we were preoccupied when then SNAP requirements for works for hungry people, but not about protecting the tax papers, that will bail them out of whatever does about a bank to crash it." We do know he has auditory processing problems after a stroke.
Yeah.
But does that give you cause for concern that his office is out there doctoring what he says?
So I've known Dianne Feinstein for a very long time. She is definitely hurting. I hope she gets better. But under our system, she got elected, and she will decide to step down. If something happens where she can't serve, California will replace her. So I'm not going to come on your show and question, the abilities of my colleagues who got elected like I did. Am I concerned? Yeah, but we have a process that stood the test of time. My predecessor lived to be 100, and so all I can say is that we've been doing it the same way for a long time, and I wish them both well. But I wish there was a test of common sense, and maybe half of us would be kicked out, because it seems to me stupid to have a broken border and spend money like there's no tomorrow, but that's not going to happen either.
Well, you told the markets to stay calm. And look what happened. That was down much more a few seconds ago.
Yeah, well, they're not listening. Watch Fox. Quit watching CNBC. Watch Fox.
Senator, it was great to have you here
Thank
today.
you.
Come back to New York anytime.
All right.